Woolly Story. Welcome to my cozy little corner of YouTube, where you can unwind and drift off to sleep while listening to some soothing bedtime stories. This is the perfect place for those who want to absorb new vocabulary while listening to bedtime stories before drifting off to sleep. So get comfy, relax, and let me help you drift off into dreamland. In the vast expanse of space, a small reconnaissance vessel from a distant alien civilization approached Earth. Its mission was to gather data and assess the planet's suitability for invasion. As the ship's sensors scanned the surface, the crew detected signs of intelligent life. The alien king, who led the mission, was intrigued by this discovery. He ordered the ship to land on a remote part of the planet to investigate further. As they descended, they noticed a small research station on the outskirts of a city. The king decided to investigate the station, hoping to gather some valuable intelligence. Meanwhile, inside the research station, Mark, a young scientist, was analyzing some data he had collected from the surrounding area. He was deep in thought when he heard a strange noise outside. He cautiously walked towards the window and saw a small spacecraft landing just a few meters away. Mark was terrified but also fascinated. He decided to approach the alien vessel to get a closer look. As he got closer, he saw a tall, imposing figure emerge from the ship. The alien king towered over Mark, who was taken aback by the sight of the alien's unusual features. The king and Mark regarded each other with suspicion, but as they spoke, they realized they shared a common curiosity about the universe. They began to exchange knowledge about their respective worlds and found they had much to learn from each other. As the conversation continued, the king began to see Earth in a new light. He was amazed by the diversity and complexity of life on the planet, and his mission to invade it suddenly seemed pointless. The two spent hours talking and sharing stories, and by the end of the encounter, they had formed an unlikely bond. In the days following their encounter, the alien king continued to observe Earth from afar. He became increasingly fascinated by the planet's diversity and complexity and sought out Mark's company to learn more about it. Mark was thrilled to have the opportunity to communicate with an extraterrestrial being and eagerly shared his knowledge of Earth. He showed the king images of the planet's natural wonders and told him stories about its history and culture. The king, in turn, shared stories about his own planet, which was vastly different from Earth. As they spent more time together, the king and Mark developed a deep friendship. They exchanged ideas and philosophies and debated the nature of the universe. The king was surprised by Mark's intelligence and curiosity, and he came to see him as a valuable ally. One day, while they were exploring a remote part of the planet, the king and Mark stumbled upon a group of humans who were struggling to survive. The humans were living in poverty and facing numerous challenges, including a lack of resources and political instability. The king was moved by the plight of the humans and realized that his civilization's technology could be used to help them. He decided to use his resources to assist the humans, and he and Mark began working together to devise a plan. They gathered a team of scientists and engineers from both civilizations and developed a range of solutions to address the humans' needs. They provided them with clean water, food, and medical supplies, and helped them build new infrastructure and develop sustainable practices. As they worked together, the king and Mark realized that they shared a common goal: to make the universe a better place for all beings. They became determined to find a way for their two civilizations to coexist peacefully and work towards a common future. In the weeks that followed the first encounter, the alien king and Mark continued to communicate through a device that allowed them to overcome their language barrier. They talked about their respective worlds, their cultures, and their dreams. The king was amazed by the richness of Earth's biosphere, which he had never seen on his own planet. Mark showed him images of forests, oceans, and mountains, and the king was fascinated by the different species of animals and plants that inhabited them. He was particularly interested in humans, and Mark explained to him how humans had developed their civilizations and technologies over thousands of years. For his part, Mark was awed by the technology and knowledge of the alien civilization. The king shared with him information about their advanced spacecraft, their understanding of the universe, and their methods of communication. Mark realized how little humans knew about the cosmos and how much they could learn from the aliens. As they continued to converse, the king and Mark grew closer. They discovered that they shared a love of exploration and discovery, and they enjoyed learning from each other. The king became more and more interested in Earth and its inhabitants, and he began to question the wisdom of his civilization's plan to invade. Mark, meanwhile, was fascinated by the idea of visiting other planets and meeting other intelligent species. He realized that there was so much more to learn and explore beyond Earth, and he felt fortunate to have met the king and learned so much about his civilization. As they ended their conversations each day, both the king and Mark felt a sense of excitement and anticipation about what the future held. They were amazed at how much they had discovered about each other's worlds and how much they had in common, despite the vast distance between them. As the days went by, the rest of the alien crew grew increasingly impatient with the king's fascination with Earth. They saw it as a waste of time and resources, and they urged him to focus on their mission of invasion. The king tried to explain that he had learned a lot about Earth and its inhabitants and that he believed there might be a better way to interact with the planet than through war. The other aliens scoffed at the idea, calling it naive and foolish. They insisted that Earth was a weak and primitive planet and that their advanced technology would easily defeat its defenses. They began preparing for the invasion, assembling weapons, and training their soldiers. The king felt torn between his loyalty to his people and his newfound friendship with Mark. He tried to persuade the other aliens to consider an alternative approach, but they refused to listen. Tensions between the king and his followers grew, and a power struggle ensued. Meanwhile, Mark had discovered the aliens' plans to invade Earth. He was shocked and terrified, and he knew he had to do something to stop it. He contacted the king and pleaded with him to call off the invasion, arguing that there must be a way for the two civilizations to coexist peacefully. The king was torn between his loyalty to his people and his growing respect for Earth and its inhabitants. He realized that he could not let his friendship with Mark be destroyed by war. He decided to take a risk and speak out against the invasion, hoping that he could convince his people to change their minds. In the end, the king's efforts were in vain. The other aliens were too set in their ways, and they launched the invasion despite his protests. The king contacted Mark and proposed a plan to form an alliance between the two civilizations. He suggested that they work together to find a way to bring peace and understanding between their peoples. Mark was initially skeptical, but he realized that the king was sincere in his desire to make things right. He agreed to help the king in any way he could. Together, they rallied a group of like-minded individuals from both Earth and the alien civilization to work towards a peaceful coexistence. At first, it was difficult to overcome the distrust and hostility between the two groups. There were disagreements and setbacks, but the king and Mark persevered. They organized meetings, exchanged knowledge and ideas, and worked together to address common challenges. Over time, the alliance grew stronger. Humans and aliens learned to understand and appreciate each other's differences, and they began to work together towards common goals. The king and Mark continued to lead the effort, and they became close friends, united by their love of exploration and discovery. As the alliance flourished, the rest of the alien civilization began to take notice. They saw the potential of working with humans, and they began to reconsider their previous approach. The King and Mark's alliance had sparked a revolution, and a new era of peace and cooperation had begun. Years had passed since the invasion, and the alliance between Earth and the alien civilization had grown stronger. Humans and aliens worked together on a variety of projects, from scientific research to space exploration. The once hostile relationship between the two civilizations had given way to a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect. Mark and the King had become close friends and trusted advisors to each other. They continued to explore the universe together, learning from each other's experiences and discoveries. They marveled at the beauty and complexity of the cosmos, and they knew that there was still so much to explore and discover. As the alliance flourished, humans and aliens worked to address common challenges. They collaborated on environmental initiatives, shared knowledge on disease prevention, and worked to promote peace and understanding between their respective cultures. The King had become a beloved figure on Earth, admired for his wisdom and compassion. He had learned so much from his friendship with Mark, and he had come to appreciate the diversity and beauty of Earth in a way he never thought possible. He knew that he had made the right decision in choosing to work towards peace and cooperation rather than war and conquest. The story ends with the King and Mark standing together, looking out at the vast universe, united in their shared curiosity and passion for exploration. They knew that their friendship had been forged under the most unlikely of circumstances, but they also knew that it had the power to change the course of history. And as they looked out into the vast expanse of space, Mark and the King felt a sense of excitement and anticipation about what the future held. They knew that there were still challenges to be faced, but they were confident that they could face them together. And that's it for tonight's story. I hope it made you feel all warm and cozy. Join me again tomorrow for another bedtime story. Good night. Sweet dreams.